Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 523 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, for Sunday, March 10th, 2019. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Philadelphia is staying in the present, EA is skipping their presentation, and Disney is releasing their past. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, on any of our syndicated platforms like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the Podcast Play app in the Windows Store, myriad of other places like TuneIn Radio or Spotify, on any of our live stream platforms like livestream.com, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitch, Mixer, or for some reason Periscope is not working tonight, but normally it is, or of course on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways to do that. The first is live on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us, and there you can chat with us in the chat rooms as we talk about our topics. We always appreciate it. And again, normally we would also be on Periscope, but for some reason they're not working tonight. It is what it is. But if you're not able to join us live, that is okay. You can also subscribe, like I said, on Apple and Google and Podcast Play and a bunch of other places. All you have to do is go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe, and there you can see all of our shows and all of the different ways that you can subscribe. With that, I think that's the spiel. Avram, how have you been this week?
Busy.
Busy?
Very busy.
Yeah.
Lots going on. Lots going on at our office. But overall, the most exciting news is probably in front of us rather than behind. I mean, we didn't have a lot of exciting new announcements coming because we're kind of in that period after CES and before Computex and after MWC, where there's not going to be a lot of new stuff announced, although some of the things that were announced at CES will start to roll out and we'll be able to see them. So, we could make an argument about whether this is a great time for news or a poor time, but it's a time.
It's a time. It sure is. Oh my goodness. Yeah. We've got GDC going on shortly, I think, maybe this coming week. So we'll have some, game news. Hopefully we'll see the confirmation of our suspicions on the Xbox Live everywhere except PlayStation capability in the next couple days. I saw Naughty America is apparently going to be at GDC this year because apparently they have to be everywhere now. We interviewed them at CES 2 years ago. I interviewed them at CES on the live show 2 years ago because Danielle and I were trying to decide who was going to have what time slot, and I'm like, I'm not going to make you have that conversation. I'll take that one. That seemed unfair. But so it looks like GDC is growing this year, so we might see some really cool stuff announced over there. So we might be in for that next, like you said, that next wave of interesting stuff coming our way. So have you gotten to sit in the chair yet?
No, because I need help. Somebody to help at the office to help me put it together. I'm kind of not, I'm kind of hoping he doesn't listen to this anyway. I'm kind of hoping that my coworker Andrew will, just see the box one day and be like, I got a couple hours. I'll put it together.
That's funny. That's funny.
Because it's time consuming.
Oh.
It's not the kind of like getting on my hands and knees and drilling and like drilling in screws is not the kind of thing I enjoy doing it. Well, I don't enjoy doing it, period, but particularly at work. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping to have some help putting it together, and we have more chairs coming too. So,
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that because it's time for me to replace my chair in my office, and so I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about chairs.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting in a Noble chair. Noble makes some really nice chairs. I got a chance to sit in at Computex, and they're supposed to be sending me one. So
Awesome.
That's what I'm looking forward to because they have the lumbar support built in.
Yeah.
A lot of these gaming chairs just give you a pillow that you kind of adjust for your lumbar support, and I prefer that be built in and not be this kind of pillow that has to be like elastic on. So
yeah, I agree on that. The studio chairs have got a great lumbar support in them, and if it weren't for the fact that I'd be afraid that I'd tear up the armrests on these things in a pretty short period of time, I would take one of these over to the office. But anyway, that sounds great. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say. But for now, how about we get down to some news? This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new tablet, a laptop, an Xbox One, either S or X, right now you get a free select game plus a bonus code for Gears of War 4 when you buy an Xbox One. So that's 2 free games with your console. You can also save $200 on the Surface Book 2, which I so badly want to upgrade this one to a Surface Book 2. But there's a whole lot more. You've got phones, and you've got the Samsung Galaxy series and a whole bunch of other stuff. VR headsets, AR headsets, all available by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. Before we get started, if you are listening live, I want to apologize because it seems like technology is absolutely fighting us tonight. What I'm hearing in my headset is not what you guys are hearing on the show, and it's not what will be heard on the final version. So if you are suffering through live, we definitely appreciate it because this is all very strange tonight. Anyway, so let's get down to it. We know that cashless, with a CASH, cashless with no physical currency, is becoming more popular. Kind of the pinnacle of that concept, of course, is the Amazon Go, which is their almost fully automated convenience store, which is designed to be done almost without any employees. Obviously, there's tech support and things like that, and they're still in prototype mode, so there are physically people there. But the idea is you walk in, you pick up whatever it is that you want, you walk out, and on your way out, it charges your card. The end. Nothing more to it. Well, it's not just Amazon that's going cashless. There are a lot of stores that are doing it for a number of reasons. One, if you don't have cash in the store, you don't have to worry about being robbed because there's nothing to take. There's the fact that at no point do you run out of change for customers, which if you've ever worked in retail, running out of pennies or ones will just ruin your day because customers get mad taking quarters. And so, there are all these things. So you got to run to the bank, which leaves one less person in the store. There's all kinds of things that cash creates. And so a lot of places are going cashless, including here in town. Our baseball team just went cashless in the stadium. So it's definitely something that is gaining some steam. But not everybody is happy about it. The city of Philadelphia actually passed a law through the city council this week that prevents any store from operating within the city limits as a cashless store. So that's an interesting move in the other direction. Obviously, that means that Amazon Go will never come to Philadelphia because it can't. But it also means that, small stores that are in places where they're afraid of getting robbed, or, whatever the reason to transition away from cash is, isn't available to them. Obviously, the reasoning is because of the unbanked, the idea that, somebody who's maybe lower income doesn't have access to banking or something like that. But there are solutions out there for that. We interviewed a cool company at Collision this year that is specifically that for Latin America. So it seems like there are ways around that. And if they were really worried about the unbanked, wouldn't you think that they'd try to support something like that, rather than saying we're staying where we are?
Well, look, it's whatever the solution is for someone who's unbanked, you're not going to have a perfect solution that people are going to immediately sign up for.
That's true.
Whether it's some type of a cashless card that you have to have an account for, there's an immediacy to cash.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
And there's also an anonymity to cash, by the way.
That's true, too.
So cash maintains your privacy when you're buying things. I think we should all be aware of that as well. So I it may sound Luddite, but I support what they're doing because it gives people the option to remain anonymous when they're shopping. And for those who really can't bank for whatever reason, poor credit, whatever it is, there's the option of cash is there. Now, you could say, well, not every store is doing this. You don't have to shop at Amazon Go. But what happens when all of your local grocery stores now do this, and you have a hard time getting food, or consequently, a lot of the things that they have for people who are cashless charge them money. So now they've got to pay a fee on top of they have to spend money just to spend money. Right. So honestly, I'm kind of in agreement with the law there, because you're really trying to make it so that people are not discriminated against based on their access to technology, and even people who have the ability to get a credit card or an ATM card still have the option to be anonymous. And considering all the places that we're being tracked, frankly, there's a lot of times where I would rather pay cash, because I don't want every little store having my information.
Okay, interesting. I am interestingly not on the side of the topic, but I'm totally the other way. I haven't carried cash with me anywhere in eons. When somebody asks, have you got change? I'm like, no, not in years.
Well, to be fair, lately I don't carry a lot of cash with me, but it's also somewhat purposeful. Like, hey, if I don't have it, I won't. Well, but then I'll end up buying stuff with a credit card if I need to. So, but but if I'm buying a pack of gum from the corner store for $2, I don't want to have to give them my credit card number and have them have that when they could very well have the number stolen from them.
Sure. Have a Target style POS hack.
Yeah. Well, that's happening all the time.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. That's just the one that most people know of offhand. But yeah, that kind of stuff happens. Data is taken. How often do we talk about data getting yanked from companies? There was a 700 million email record hijacked just this week. Well, I mean, it wasn't a hijack. They had it in the public domain, but that's a different issue.
I mean, in some ways, cash is the most secure way to pay. In some ways.
Yeah, in some ways, because there's the whole security thing. On the other hand, it's also like a bearer bond. Whoever has it is the owner of it. So there's that up and down situation. But yeah, I can obviously I can totally totally appreciate that. It makes sense. I think maybe the reaction, like I can understand what it is they're doing here. It just seems like maybe the reaction is too early because it seems like not many places are doing this yet. I mean, it's growing in popularity a little bit, but if you've got two grocery stores around you, it seems like one of them's not going to do it so that they can steal the market share from the other one. But
what if the one that does do it is the one that has better prices?
Yeah, that's true.
Or has the food that you want. So I don't know. I tend to think also maybe the government has to stand up for legal tender as well. Like, the government. I mean, granted, it's not the city that has to stand up. It would be more the federal government that would have to stand up and say, like, we have this cash over here. We have a mint that makes it, and we want retailers to respect the cash. Although, not like they're going to force companies to accept cash online. Like, it's not like you're going to mail a wad of money to Newegg and get a motherboard back or something.
Although we did just talk about last week or 2 weeks ago, a site that allowed you to mail cash in for something. So
yeah, there's a VPN. There's a VPN site that allows you to do it to remain anonymous, and that's why I say in some ways cash is the most secure.
That makes sense. That's funny.
Until someone picking up the mail sees the money and.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, bearer bonds, whoever physically holds the note holds the value. So it'll be interesting to see, where this goes. The clash between, the increasingly digital world and the non-cashless society. There's, it'll be interesting to see. Philadelphia is the first, but they're not the only ones talking about it. So my guess is over the next couple of months, we'll see more cities at least have the conversation, if not actually implement something similar.
Yep.
This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by Newegg. Whether you're building a new computer, upgrading an existing one, or buying a finished system, Newegg has everything you need to do that. Processors, motherboards, and RAM and power supplies, and then also, closed products like laptops and computer monitors and things like that. And they've got daily deals right now. They've got an Acer HD gaming monitor with 1 millisecond refresh and AMD FreeSync for $119, which is a pretty good deal. And to find out all of the daily deals that are available and to see all of the products that they offer, you can go to piltchpoint.live/Newegg. All right. So we've had talked on one topic a number of times since the beginning of the year. We're going to break that cycle tonight, right, Avram?
Yes, we're not going to talk about Raspberry Pi. But for those of you who feel really who really miss it, let's keep in mind that the 14th is coming up, and that's Pi Day. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about a new technology that was just announced this week. We will not be seeing it for quite a while, but it is something that's very interesting. USB 4. Yes, we are getting to USB 4 now, everyone. For those unaware, we're still the current standard. This current level of USB that is the standard, and none of them have come out yet, is USB 3.2. And the real advancement in USB 3.2 is that you can get USB 3.2 that is dual channel and gives you 20 gigabit per second. That devices like that we should see in 2019. USB 4, however, the USB Promoter Group, which is the non-profit group that comes out with the USB standard, they are talking about mid-year they're going to release the spec, and then companies that want to make devices based on USB 4, they want to make controllers, they want to make, they want to make peripherals, they want to make docks. They will have the spec, and you got to figure it's going to take them, a good year or more after that, 12 to 18 months maybe, to come out with products. So the best case scenario, I think, is you would see products mid to end of 2020. But even then, my guess is it's going to be few and far between for a while. I mean, look how long it took for USB Type-C to become as popular as it is, and still not as popular as it should be. But good news is we do have a lot to look forward to, and we got a fair amount of information. I got, once this was announced last week, I got on the phone with Brad Saunders, who's the CEO of the USB Promoter Group. Talked to him for a while about what their thinking is and what the real benefits of USB 4 are going to be. So one thing to know about USB 4 is that they've decided to spell it with creative spelling. I, however, will not give in to this creative spelling. They've decided to spell it USB 4 without a space between the B and the 4.
Of course.
Whereas every other USB is, like a version number. And the reason that they're doing that is because they don't want people to get caught up in the version numbers. They don't want it to be 4.0. They don't want it to later come out with a 4.1. They want to kind of steer the message toward like this, users don't have to think about what version they're getting. Now, we'll see how that pans out in real life. What they told me is they still haven't come up with their marketing strategy yet. So USB 4 might not actually be the full marketing name. It might be something like, super duper speed USB, because right now USB 3 is super speed USB. So USB 3 and 3.1 and 3.2 are considered super speed USB. And that is what they would prefer people call USB 3. But we know that in real life, most people don't call it that. So what are the benefits?
They could call it ultra speed because 4K is ultra HD.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Although at work we were saying the best name would be ludicrous speed.
Because then they could do the opposite of what who was it? Was it Lenovo had T-Pain as their spokesperson, or Toshiba? Toshiba had T-Pain as their spokesperson. They could have Ludacris as the spokesperson for USB 4.
Yeah, ludicrous speed. So the main benefits that you will get from USB 4 is, first of all, it can do up to 40 gigabit per second maximum speed.
Nice.
So that makes it as fast as Thunderbolt 3, which is kind of the fastest thing around these days. Means it's going to be good for really high-speed things like using an external GPU, which I think, external GPUs are, while sometimes some of the models are problematic, are really, really useful. If you've got an Ultrabook, really lightweight notebook, and it's got Thunderbolt 3 on it, you can take that, attach it to something with like a fairly powerful AMD or NVIDIA desktop card, and you could play games over that connection.
Or render video.
There's just so much cool stuff you could do. Of course, also with 40 gigabit per second, you could attach a really, really fast external SSD and be able to keep up with it. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to actually be compatible with Thunderbolt 3 devices. Possibly. I should caveat that. If you saw the headlines when this came out last Monday, it was, it's compatible with Thunderbolt 3. Well, sort of. The manufacturers will have the option to make their USB 4 ports compatible with Thunderbolt 3, not the requirement to do so. So there we have something where I think, unfortunately, could lead to some confusion.
Yeah.
Because, when you're getting this, do you know whether you're getting the one that is Thunderbolt 3 compatible?
Right.
Presumably, they will probably want to put a Thunderbolt logo on it or something. In which case, then it will have to go through certification with Intel, just like Thunderbolt does now. So I don't know. Is that going to make it just as onerous as being making your own Thunderbolt 3 port. I don't know. The other thing that it does, which is something that I believe Thunderbolt 3 does also, is it dynamically splits resources between video and data. So if you are, one thing you can do with USB 4 is you can send both data and say a HDMI or DisplayLink video signal over the same wire. And if the display port signal for your monitor only needs like 20% of the bandwidth, it'll give the other 80% of the bandwidth to that external SSD you're copying something to that's linked through the same hub. But this is an improvement over what we have today, because today we have something called USB alternative mode. And USB alternative mode, yes, you can output to a DisplayPort monitor or an HDMI monitor from a USB Type-C cable, but it doesn't do a good job of dynamically allocating those resources. If it's going over DisplayPort, according to what I heard from USB promoter group, is DisplayPort is a 50-50 split of data versus video. If you have HDMI, you can only use HDMI in alternate mode. You can't use both HDMI and data at the same time. So this is going to allow the port to be really smart and decide how much allocation to give to data transfer and how much to video.
Nice.
Other things to know about this is that it is going to use USB Type-C ports only. Forget about using a Type A port or a Micro B or something. Okay. It's going to come in 3 speeds, 10, 20, and 40. And it's, of course, going to be backward compatible with older devices like USB is famous for. So if you've got an old hard drive and you can use an adapter, you can plug it to USB 4 and you can get a connection and it will work at the lowest common speed between the new port and the old one. But keep in mind, this probably isn't going to come for quite some time. And it is also going to be more expensive for manufacturers to include than current USB 3.1, 3.2. So, we expect that the first devices to have it will be premium devices.
Yeah. That sounds reasonable. Obviously, anytime new technology comes about, especially when we're talking new ports, it almost never comes to the consumer grade, the standard grade product. It usually starts at the upper grade.
But the really good news about this is that it kind of democratizes something that Thunderbolt 3 has been doing for a while, which is providing a really fast connection that's 40 gigabit per second. So now you could totally see, for example, there's no AMD powered system that has Thunderbolt in it. I don't know if it's physically impossible or you could do it with an add-on chip, but you don't find AMD systems with Thunderbolt in them. In fact, you find very few desktops that have Thunderbolt 3 in them, even Intel ones. So this hopefully is a bit cheaper than implementing Thunderbolt. It's more platform agnostic, so like an AMD will feel comfortable, supporting it, and so we'll see more better adoption than we see with Thunderbolt because it's not tied to one company, to one platform in Intel.
Yeah, that's good. Obviously, for both Intel and AMD, it would probably feel a little strange to have an AMD processor and then have an Intel powered port on it. So for the manufacturers to get involved in that, yeah, I can see why there's not AMD powered machines with Thunderbolt in them. But yeah, this brings the speed and the capability to the general case, which is good. So you said we might start to see these late next year?
Yeah. So don't hold your breath, but it is interesting to know, right?
Yeah. So
something to keep an eye out for. I certainly wouldn't wait to delay any purchases to wait for this.
that's what I was just gonna say. This falls into your category of don't wait for it. If you need a laptop, just do it.
Oh yeah, listen, you're not going to see laptops with this for a very long time. And even when you do, this peripheral support will not be... Well, I guess if they support Thunderbolt 3, then at least you're getting Thunderbolt 3. But if you want the kind of connectivity today, you can get that 40 gigabit per second if you buy a laptop that has Thunderbolt 3 in it. So, yeah, I don't think, it's going to be cool for the industry over time to watch it be adopted, which I hope it will be. But it's not going to have a great immediate impact on the users.
Yeah, and it'll be, I think in particular, like for me, the smart switching capability versus, like, it's like the old days, right? The difference between a USB hub and a USB switch. Or the difference between an Ethernet hub and an Ethernet switch. A hub gave you 50-50 versus a switch that was able to smart allocate. And so we're talking about the actual video versus data connection being smart allocation, which I love. So you've got information on this, right?
Yes. So visit tomshardware.com and you can see our USB 4 Everything You Need to Know article, which I wrote.
Very cool. And I will point out, I said it to you off air and I'll say it again now. I loved the social media post I saw earlier that said, we don't know everything, but here's 2,000 words about what we do know.
Yes, I'll give credit to our social media guy, Kenneth, who is just a great guy. And he asked me, he said, how many words is this? So I counted. It was like 1,990 something. He's like, let's say 2,000.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I saw that and I laughed. I'm like, that's a good share right there. That's a win. Well, as always, Avram, thank you for bringing us information on the insides of the computers. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. Up your game with the accessories for both PC and for console, all from Razer. Whether you're looking for a great headset like the Razer Kraken Tournament Edition, which is $20 off right now. You're looking for a great keyboard like the Black Widow X Chroma Mercury Edition, which is $40 off right now. Or maybe you're looking for a complete computer system, a whole laptop, and the Razer Blade 15 Advanced is $400 off right now and comes with their Portal Wi-Fi router. And there's more models than that that's available on. And to find all the deals that are running right now, you can go to f5live.tv/Razer. All right. So, we talked last year, at the end of the year, November, I believe, about Sony making the decision not to have a press conference at E3. And that marked essentially the second company, because we can assume that Nintendo also will not have a press conference because they do almost all of their stuff since 2013 via live streams. It's what Sony's going to do. And this week, Electronic Arts announced that they will be joining those two companies and also not holding a press conference at E3 2019. Instead, obviously, EA will be doing a number of live streams throughout the week, similar to the Nintendo Treehouse. And they will be focusing on their EA Play fan festival that happens in LA during E3, but is not officially attached and is not a press conference. It is a hands-on festival for fans who happen to be in the area or have come to the area to experience it. And, we talked in November, Avram, that this is becoming more and more of a trend, not just with E3, but, these big conglomerate conventions in general. We're seeing some of the big guys start pulling back from that and holding their own events. EA did it, just recently with Apex Legends. They did not announce that during a conference. They didn't wait until a conference. That thing, they said, hey, we're doing this thing. Here it is. Enjoy. And it was entirely EA. We see Microsoft do it. Apple does it. Google does it. Facebook does it. So, I know we talked earlier that GDC is starting to see a bit of a pickup, but that may just be the time of the year. You know what I mean? Yeah. Do you think that the big splashy press conferences are starting to get stepped back from?
I think it's been going on for a while. When you look at CES and everything like that. Larger companies like even Microsoft was, I think, didn't want to make any announcements this year's show. No one has seen. It's definitely, you see fewer and fewer large companies using the show to make big announcements. On the other hand, we did have a few at CES. Sure. Some pretty major stuff from AMD.
And we always see Samsung and LG make big splashy presentations at CES. But we used to see the show get kicked off with Microsoft, and they left a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's a shame because the industry really benefits. Consumers benefit. Everybody except maybe the large companies, who knows. I think they benefit too from having some flagship companies participate. You don't have a great mall without an anchor store, right? And it's really bad for a show like E3 if the major players are skipping it, because then the smaller companies people wouldn't go to see, that wouldn't get a lot of attention. The show wouldn't exist just for them.
Right.
People wouldn't attend the show just for them.
Right. Like NC Soft is a great example, right? They're a fairly large publisher. Most people have encountered a game that comes out of NC Soft at some point in their gaming career, but they're unlikely to be able to draw a press crowd on their own.
Yeah, so, to get back to the CES analogy, which I know better because I've not been to E3, but I obviously know what goes on there. All those wonderful little companies that we saw in Eureka Park, that, all the little startups, frankly, I would go just to see them because they're more interesting a lot of the time. But, if the show wasn't there, they wouldn't really have that same type of platform for reaching people. Right. But, the Sonys of the world and the Samsungs of the world and Nintendo of the world, they can afford to put on their own press events. Right. They can afford to snub the shows because they can afford to do their own thing. So I have no idea the politics behind the scenes, but if I were the people who run E3, I would do everything in my power to make it pleasant for some of these larger companies to participate, even if it means cutting them some kind of sweet deal or something on booth space or whatever it is, just so that the show remains relevant.
Yeah. Now it's important to note that, to the best of our public knowledge, none of these companies have pulled out of E3 itself, just that none of them are hosting pre-E3 press conferences. Now, at least not in a giant theater in LA. I think in this particular case, what Nintendo discovered in 2013 and what the other companies are starting to discover is, the announcements that happen in the room, the press conferences are live streamed by E3 and others anyway. So it's not like the breaking news happens by the people in the room. The people who are truly interested are watching the live stream anyway, which they're still going to do. They're just not going to do it in the Staples Center, or, I use that as an example. The Nokia Theater, we'll use that one as an example. That's where Microsoft usually does theirs. Obviously, it's not called that anymore. It's probably called the Microsoft Theater now, huh? Anyway, yeah. It's just the press conferences aren't happening live in LA. They're starting to happen from HQ, where, the message can be controlled a little better. There's no audience to deal with, and if you or I wanted to watch the press conference and write about it at the end, we could still do that. So I think that is really the situation here. I think that especially at E3, I think that the companies are starting to discover that these big press events don't have the return that they once had. It's not like G4 is set up in there with a big live production crew and they're going to interview the president of Sony as soon as they come off stage. That stuff doesn't so much happen anymore, and they don't give us any hands-on until the show starts. So I think that's what's happening at E3 personally. But none of them are pulling out of the convention. The actual event will still have a big Nintendo had possibly their biggest presence in years last year on the show floor, but didn't do anything in LA for the press. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how E3, like you said, how E3 deals with this transition over time, because they'll have to deal with it. It's just how they'll deal with it will be interesting. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by RiffTrax. Make fun of movies, or let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, making fun of movies. From Hollywood blockbusters to B-movie oddities, they've got it all, including The Girl from Rio, which appears to be some sort of terrible James Bond ripoff. The way it usually works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, play it along with your DVD, Netflix, Amazon, wherever the movie happens to live, and laugh. They do, every year, try to do some live events, and they are doing a Kickstarter right now for the Giant Spider Invasion, Star Raiders, and it makes me laugh every time, Octoman, which is some sort of a underwater dog demon. I don't know what it is. Anyway, to find out about the live events and to find out the feature films and the short films that they have available, you can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. Seriously, this Octoman scares me every time I see it. All right. So I don't even know how to transition into this one. An interesting pitch was made this week. Let's go with that. By Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren, that Amazon, Google, and Facebook are too big and should be broken up. And in particular, that the platform and the implementation should not be one and the same, which is an interesting idea. Essentially, the idea that Amazon's website running on AWS is inappropriate, and somehow even called out the idea of Amazon Basics being inappropriate despite the fact that every retailer has a white label brand. She called out Google Search and Google AdSense, which if you were to separate the advertising business from the search, I can guarantee, like, if Google was forced to pull search and advertising apart, search would be gone by Friday. Because it doesn't generate anything without AdSense. So it's to me, it seems like a really strange pitch, especially coming from a Democratic candidate who, the big tech, the Valley, has put a lot of money into Democratic candidates in the last number of elections. It seems like a weird group to alienate, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think I haven't gone through and looked at who's donating to who, but I think a lot of companies donate to in any given election, they donate to both candidates so that they can be catered to no matter who wins.
True.
So I think, so first of all, I agree that her proposal is not realistic whatsoever. But I think the underlying problem that she's trying to get at is anti-competitive behavior. Now, I'm not really aware of any serious anti-competitive behavior around some of these things, but the potential for anti-competitive behavior is very strong. Like if Amazon Basics were really, really good, then there would be a problem, right?
Sure.
Because Amazon is now more than a store; it's a platform. Mm-hmm. It's a marketplace. So they have such immense power that if Amazon decided, hey, I'm not going to, whatever products they carry or don't carry, things like that, they make, if Amazon Basics was like top notch
right.
and competing with everybody else, then there might be a problem for, well, you know what? It would be a problem if somehow in the search on Amazon and the promotion on Amazon, if it's a platform, then there really has to be some degree of agnostic behavior.
Sure.
So like Microsoft got in trouble for this with Internet Explorer.
Yeah. And Google's gotten in trouble with it with Google Search, promoting YouTube videos and search results over other videos that had a more relevant search value.
I mean, for example, I question why why Google. I mean, I know what the ostensible reason for it is, but like Google AMP is somewhat anti-competitive, right? Because Google AMP, I mean, like it's really good quality, it's really good stuff, but you get better search rankings if you're in Google AMP, I think, and Google AMP carries fewer ads for you, so you're in order to place well in Google, you have to have the web page meet what Google considers good, and what Google maybe considers better is a page that's made to their format.
Right. And for those who don't know, Google AMP is the Accelerated Mobile Pages project, right?
Right. So like, on the one hand, those AMP pages are generally a better experience for people. On the other hand, there's Google using its competitive, its kind of monopoly power over search to say, here's what we want web pages to look like on mobile. And you don't have to play along, but you're not going to really get much traffic if you don't.
Sure.
So, I think I don't think that the concern is invalid. I think that what these things need to be addressed through some of the existing antitrust laws.
Yeah.
And they need to be looking rather than, I mean, I get it. If you broke up one thing from another thing, you would have less potential for antitrust violation. But at the same time, these companies have a right to do this. They have a right to be in there and compete.
Right.
I think the thing that people want to make sure is that it's a level playing field when they are controlling a broad platform like Google Search or AWS or Amazon Store, that they are not. They can make their own services, but they should not be doing things that give their service an unfair advantage over other competing services, and it's hard not for them not to do that.
Right, because obviously they can, like, to use Google as an example, because it's one that I think people understand probably the best. Google knows how their algorithm works for search and can optimize content to be indexed into their own engine better, which means that by nature, the Google-powered results will always have a higher than accurate, a higher than average search result value, because they know how their algorithm works and they're very protective of that, right? Nobody exactly knows how it works except for Google.
Yeah, like the worst thing in the world that could happen to media is if, let's say, Google decided that they wanted to be a media company. Like, that would be a really serious problem.
Yeah.
Because if Google decided, let's say, that they want to be a provider of like news, right? Yeah. Wait a second, now they're at an unfair advantage, right? Because who's going to come up higher in Google News, right? Me or Google's own brand? Right. It's good that they've stayed out of it.
Like if Google had purchased CNN instead of AT&T.
Right, exactly. Imagine that situation. Right. Like, that's kind of scary. At the same time, these guys are not alone. I mean, there's, NBC Comcast owns NBC. Verizon bought a bunch of content sites, like,
Yahoo,
of course I'm in content, so I think about that side of it a lot.
Sure.
But so there's the potential for companies taking unfair advantage, which creates real problems, and you do need people to enforce some rules of the road, or else you're going to have like 3 companies left.
Sure.
And I don't think that's good for anybody. But at the same time, to kind of tell companies how they can and can't innovate is a real problem. So
and the idea that
I don't think they should do nothing. I just think this is the wrong solution.
Right. And the idea that the pitch included what was her term? Unrolling? I think it was unrolling. Previously approved mergers, like removing Instagram and WhatsApp from Facebook, making Google get rid of Waze.
Yeah, look. None of that's ever going to happen.
No, of course not.
None of it's ever going to happen, because let's say that she went into office and she wanted to do this. Like, those companies have such broad, tentacles into like any large company. They have a lot of, I don't think that would go anywhere in the Congress.
Yeah, I totally agree. It seems like a strange demographic to go after. I don't know. It seems like one of those pitches that you make when you're trying to distract from some other crazy thing, which, who knows? I mean, she's got the whole Native American fraud thing around her, and but who knows what the actual goal here was, because it doesn't seem like this pitch was intended to get people on her. I mean, excited.
Maybe that's just how she feels.
Maybe.
And I appreciate people being honest, even if what they have to say isn't necessarily popular or necessarily a good idea.
Sure. Yeah. An authentic person is definitely better than an inauthentic person.
So, yes, you're right. I don't necessarily think this is a good calculation. I don't think that there's a very big contingency of people who want to see Google broken up into different companies. Although
you might score a couple of points right now, suggesting that Google unroll the Nest purchase. That's a little callback to what, last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, a lot of these companies are doing things that are abusing their market position, and the way to deal with it isn't necessarily through breaking up companies. Right. It's through enforcing existing antitrust regulations, or if you feel that they're not adequate, enforcing new ones, like, some of the crazy privacy violations that have been going on at various companies. Like,
not just those three.
Yes, those should be enforced. Yeah. Like, those should be, and I don't know what the legal penalties on the books are now. Right. Maybe there need to be some new laws to put some teeth into people's privacy, right to privacy.
Yeah, quite possibly. But,
but this isn't going to do that.
No, this isn't going to do that because, first, like you said, there's no way it gets through. Second, there's no way that Instagram gets unrolled out of Facebook without the platform collapsing out from under itself, because it hasn't existed solo for so long that it doesn't survive solo, I think. And it's so intertwined with Facebook today. It would take an entire presidency to try and pull that apart.
It's not going to happen.
And then
didn't
we learn our lesson with the Bells? Wasn't the idea that breaking up Bell was going to make all the little ones more successful? And in the end, didn't they all collapse and get bought by either Verizon or SBC? I mean,
I don't totally understand the history of that. I've read things going both ways on that. Some saying that it spurred some innovation, others saying that, what you're saying, which is that those companies couldn't survive on their own. I don't know. I don't think we've had a problem with innovation in the communication space since that time. So
I think
the
national standard rollout for cellular was hindered by it a small amount, but not that much. I mean, we had little regional networks that all sprouted up, and they sprouted up in analog. They sprouted up on different frequencies because, Bell South owned these frequencies here, which meant that your phone didn't necessarily work if you went to New York, and there were oddities that happened there that probably cost more to make the original handsets, but I don't think it. Now, you could always argue that challenge is the reason why we have phones that can, the iPhone can do CDMA and GSM at the same time. That challenge 30 years ago may be the reason why it was so easy to do today. So, who knows what the actual end result of all that is.
I think it's hard to go back and judge how that worked.
The only thing that we can say is that none of those companies exist today. They all got swallowed up by somebody else, with Bell South being the last one when Singular got swallowed up by SBC.
How many telecommunication companies that existed 10 years ago exist today?
Verizon, Sprint.
Okay, yeah, the ones that still do.
Yeah, I mean that's, even.
But how many that existed don't exist?
Right. There's all kinds of like little regional ones that couldn't survive on their own, and today are brought back into a conglomerate. But there's more than one today. And I think that's the end result of that breakup was today there's AT&T, there's Verizon, there's T-Mobile, there's Sprint, which it was just the Bells at the time, or the Bell at the time. Anyway, yeah, I'm with you. I don't think this ever actually happens. I think it's just a very strange pitch that gave us an interesting topic to talk about for a little while tonight.
Yep.
This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. The timing on that's pretty wonderful. Anyway, you know your basic benefits, but what you may not know is that there are a bunch of other benefits that you get for being a Prime subscriber. Amazon Prime Music gives you several million tracks available as part of your subscription. Avram's favorite, which is Amazon Prime Video, which they've got TV, movies, documentaries, original content, licensed content, even some of the HBO back catalog is available as part of your subscription. My favorite, which is Twitch Prime, you get one free Twitch subscription per month, which you can use to subscribe to PLUGHITZ Live or any of your other favorite channels. But you also get free games similar to Xbox Live, PlayStation Network. Twitch Prime gives you free games every month, and those games are yours to play, yours to keep. If you've never tried these, we've got a great guide on these and some of our other favorite features with quick links to get to them. And if you're not currently a Prime subscriber, we've got a 30-day free trial available by going to f5live.tv/prime. I'm not going to lie. I use the quick link to get to the Prime Video myself all the time because that is not the most intuitive part of their site to get to. Speaking of streaming services, let's talk Disney Plus. We know that it's coming. We've gotten some details on it, including its name very recently. Actually, almost exactly a month ago, we got the name of the service. We know that it's not just going to be Disney content. It's also going to have licensed content. But we're constantly learning new stuff. And because of a investor meeting this week, we learned that the entire Disney back catalog will be available to stream through Disney Plus, which means the end of the Disney Vault process. No longer do you have to wait 7 years between releases. If you do not already own the film, you don't have to wait 7 years between releases to see your favorite Disney classics. They will all be available through Disney Plus all the time. So I think there is their selling feature.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really question it. Of course, the idea of a quote-unquote vault seems kind of outdated in the age of streaming.
Sure. Now,
it's kind of dependent on physical media, isn't it?
Yeah, and it absolutely has everything to do with physical media. The vault is where they, in the real world, there is a physical vault where they keep the original content, and then cutting room floor stuff enough for them to do like 20 full Fantasias. But that's but the idea that a movie comes out on Blu-ray and then goes away for 7 years and then comes back. I have no idea how this is going to affect the physical media process, if they will continue that process, or if just on a Tuesday, if you can go buy Frozen. I have no idea if this is going to affect the purchases, but it will mean that all films are available all the time, which will definitely be a change for them.
Well, forgive my ignorance of DVD release policies, but even if they say something is released every 7 years, do they force Best Buy to take the copies off the shelf after a certain amount of time? Or is it just that whenever they sell out of it, they
print a limited number, and when they're sold out, they're gone?
Yeah, so I guess the question is, if the scarcity principle there only applies if the demand is so great for these Blu-rays or DVDs that they're off the shelf. Because I bet you I could go into Best Buy and find ones that came out were issued 2 or 3 years ago and still
could
there.
Be, yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. But you're probably not gonna find Cinderella. So some of them there'll be a legitimate scarcity. It would be dependent on which film it is, I guess.
Now, is there a list of what films are quote unquote in the vault? Do they take new movies that they make now and put them in the vault, considering that they're filmed digitally?
It depends on what the thing is. Like if it's an actual one of the Disney animated classics, it will definitely apply to that 7-year cycle. I don't know if they've just got like a server farm that's now in the vault as well, in in the physical vault.
Yeah,
I saw an article maybe a week or two ago come across my feed where somebody was actually like given a tour of the vault.
Yeah, see, I would love to see that.
Right? I got some friends at Disney. Maybe I can talk them into it.
At the very least, they should, like, I don't know, they should put up a video of what it's like inside or something.
Right. I didn't look at the details of that article. There might have been like pictures and stuff from inside. I'm gonna have to go find it now. Now that they're closing the virtual vault with this streaming thing, my guess is finding that article is gonna be harder.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess that's good news. You know, that you could get your Disney stuff.
It means that they're going to seed it with a lot of content from day one, which was one of the things that we were a little concerned about, was what was day one content going to look like. Because, you know, there's some stuff that is still under contract with Netflix. There's some stuff that's still under contract with Hulu. What is going to be available. And Disney has just said lots of content.
Well, it's not like they have any shortage.
That's
right?
for sure.
They own talk about a powerful company. Disney owns a ridiculous amount of stuff. But
if you just look at Marvel and Lucas, they own a ridiculous amount of stuff. When you add in Pixar, it gets even bigger. And that's not taking into account anything with the actual castle on it.
Yeah. Now the funny question is, would it be considered anti-competitive, antitrust if they acquired Star Trek? Because then you have Star Wars and Star Trek, and owned by the same company.
Well,
I think the Earth would explode. It would be like DC buying Marvel or something.
J.J. Abrams worked on both of them, so
right.
There's already a theoretical canonical link between them, with Abrams being involved in both.
It'd be like McDonald's buying Burger King.
That would either be good for Burger King or bad for McDonald's. Anyway.
Yeah.
So long as Burger King's nonsense didn't evaporate into McDonald's. Anyway, so obviously there's still questions. We don't know when it'll be released, though he did say in the meeting later this year. So that does put it in 2019, which was our guess. We don't have a price. We don't, none of the important stuff is available yet, but it is starting to take shape. So I guess we will see as the year progresses.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many streaming services now. It's getting to the point where that just might be a significant portion of someone's income.
Yeah. It sure feels that way, doesn't it?
Maybe you should, maybe your ideal, maybe living your best life is you have your mortgage paid off, or someone else in your family is paying for it. Someone else buys your food. You get everything covered in your health insurance, and but even if all those things were done for you, you would still have to work just to pay the streaming bills.
Because I mean, just right today, there's a surprising collection, and we know that, AT&T's got another one coming, and Disney Plus is coming, and so much stuff.
I mean, there's so many streaming services now, and so many that I would like to subscribe to. Like, I would really like to, and probably at some point we'll try DC Universe.
Yeah.
So
we'll give them a little bit of time to get their catalog built up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But so there's going to be a lot of incentive, and then of course, remember, I mean, I think they had me at the Mandalorian anyway. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live, and suffered through the very strange technical difficulties that we're experiencing tonight. I don't know what's going on, but if you're listening to the recording, you will probably be wondering what I'm talking about, because hopefully everything will sound normal. Next week, we will be in Orlando for the first robotics competition Orlando Regional, so it is very unlikely that the studio will be built back up in time for a show Sunday night. So instead, feel free to join us on the exact same link that you normally go to. You can go to f5live.tv/join us, and you'll be able to follow along on Saturday afternoon, starting at probably about 1 p.m. You'll be able to follow our live broadcast from the Orlando Regional. And coming up next month, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I'm working on it right now. I will be at the first World Championship in Houston, and I'm going to try and figure out how to do some sort of a first looks from the World Championship. I don't know what it'll look like, but we'll work our best to have something going on there. If you are interested in first, and I'm just going to throw this out there, the team that we are involved with, the Team Duct Tape, is going to the World Championship for the first time in a very long time, and the nonprofit organization that supports them is looking for some help. And if you've got a couple of dollars that you'd like to throw their way to help some really bright engineers get to the World Championship, they're on GoFundMe under Team Duct Tape, so go check that out. And I guess with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm
and
Avram.
we will see you guys back for first looks next week, and then F5 Live the week after. Ciao.